Hey everyone, I am so happy to be here today. Thank you so much for taking the time out and listening to what I have to say today. And I just want to be transparent. It's going to be a part of my story that it was a difficult moment in my life, but I'm okay now. This happened 30 years ago. It's a part of what helped me understand the patterns and why I speak about breaking generational trauma. If you've ever found yourself thinking, how did I end up here? Like, no matter how much you try, you're still the one being blamed. This is for you. It's like you're the one who keeps trying, the one who holds everything together. You want to keep the family together, the one who thinks, maybe if I just say it right this time, maybe if I show up differently, maybe if I just try a little harder, somehow you still end up being the problem and they blame you for everything. Not because you actually are, but because you're the one who sees what no one else is willing to look at. And in a lot of families, that person becomes the easiest one to blame, the one who keeps the peace, the one who fixes things, the one who carries it. And when things fall apart, somehow it still lands on you. We're not here to babysit grown adults. We can only change us. We can't change anybody else. We can't change our family, but we can most definitely change ourselves. And for a long time, I didn't understand that. I thought if I just kept showing up better, that things would finally change. And before I talk about family, I want to take you somewhere first because this didn't start there. But a little bit about me. My name is Thairi Nibi. I am an international best-selling author, a certified trauma-informed life coach and mentor, a speaker, and a board-certified clinical hypnotherapist. For over 15 years, I've been helping people navigate trauma, adversity, and major life transitions. This work isn't something I studied. I mean, I did study a lot of psychology, but it's truly something I lived. Everything that I talk about today is what I've lived through. My life forced me into survival far earlier than it should have. And what I came to understand over time is that so many of the patterns we struggle with aren't random. They're learned, they're inherited, but they can be changed. Today, through my work, I help high functioning women, especially those who grew up in toxic or emotionally complex environments, understand these patterns so they can finally break free from cycles that were never theirs to carry. Not through perfection, not through quick fixes, but through real lasting change. The kind that happens when you start seeing yourself differently and making choices from self-worth instead of survival. And I want to say this part honestly because today my life looks very different. I have a healthy marriage, I have a career I'm so proud of, and I built a business helping women break generational patterns. But more than anything, I have peace. I have peace, and that's been something I've chased for years and years. I was born in Manhattan, New York. I grew up in a single parent home. And I just want to say this. My mother did the best she could with the resources she had at that time. I want you to hear that because it really matters. Just like the mother before her, she did the best she could with the resources she had at that time. I did the best that I could with the resources I had at the time when I was a young mother. We're all doing the best we could with what we had. My early life was shaped by poverty, extreme poverty, a lot of instability, and constant change. We moved a lot. Every month we were in a new place, and there were times that we just lived in the streets. But eventually from New York, we moved to Puerto Rico. And in many ways, I was a little girl. It was so beautiful there. I remember the ocean breeze. I remember the sounds of the coqui frogs at night. If you've been to Puerto Rico, you know what I'm talking about. And I remember the warmth of the sun. It looks so peaceful. But beauty doesn't erase hardship. I've climbed many a mango and avocado trees just so that we could eat that day. Later, we moved back to New York, to the Bronx. And I remember the winters being so cold. It was so freezing. And I remember the summers were so hot. It was like I couldn't breathe. It was suffocating. The poverty, it just kept following us. Wherever we went, it followed us. And when you grow up like that, when you learn how to survive instead of how to feel safe, it shapes the choices you make. So when I got older, I didn't choose what was healthy. I chose what felt familiar. And I didn't even realize I was doing it at that time. I would climb trees to pick avocado fruit and mangoes and whatever I can pick just so we can eat for that day. It was that bad. But as I became a young teenager, I had met someone. And at first, it looked like love. It looked like attention. It looked like passion. It felt like I mattered. but intensity is not the same thing as love. And over time, it became controlling, and then it became violence. And there was one night that changed everything for me. We were fighting again. I mean, we would fight. If I made a left turn, we would fight. If I made a right turn, we would fight. It was a bad night. His anger kept escalating and escalating, and the violence became stronger and stronger. And I found myself being hit. And then something happened that I didn't expect. Memories I had buried came rushing back, and I could see the faces of the men who had hurt me as a child. And I remember thinking, how did I not see this sooner? How did I stay so long in this relationship? And then the real question hit me. If I had left home to escape abuse, how the hell did I end up right back in it? And I remember everything went quiet. It was like my mind stepped outside of the chaos and I can finally see my life clearly. And I wish I can tell you that moment, everything changed, that I never repeated that pattern again. But that's not how healing works. Because when something is wired into your nervous system, it doesn't just disappear. It follows you quietly into adulthood. And I did what a lot of people do. I stayed longer in that relation than I should have. I tried to make it work. I told myself it would be different this time until one day I realized I needed to leave. And I did leave that relationship. I ended that relationship and I started rebuilding my life. I was doing the best that I can to try to create something different. Number one is I saw it. The first one is seeing it, not in denial. And I know that sounds simple, but it's really not. Because for years, I didn't see a system. I saw me as the problem. I was too sensitive. If I just communicated better, if I just loved harder, if I just don't react, then everything would change. But when I finally stepped back, I started to see the pattern. I saw how the blame moved. I saw how the roles stayed the same. I saw no matter what I did, I ended up in the same position. Year after year, whatever gathering, no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried. It's damn if you do and damn if you don't. Damn if you go to the left, damn if you go to the right. Damn if you say yes, damn if you say don't. Like, what the F? It didn't matter what I did. I couldn't win. And that's when it hit me. This isn't about who I am. This is about the role I was giving. And once you see that clearly, you stop personalizing everything. That alone is freeing. The second part is releasing. This is where it gets really hard because when you've been the strong one, responsible one, at least that's how it looks from the outside, you don't just carry responsibility. You carry a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. You feel guilty for stepping back. You feel guilty for saying no. You feel guilty for not fixing a situation, even when it's breaking you inside. And if you're anything like me, you don't just feel guilty. You start negotiating with yourself. Maybe I should explain it one more time. Maybe this time they'll understand, but they never do. And I had to learn something. Just because I was used to carrying it doesn't mean it was ever mine. It's often the emotional alarm that goes off when you stop abandoning yourself. So I started putting things down, the over-explaining, the over-giving, the emotional weight that was never mine to carry. And let me be honest, I was incredibly uncomfortable, like brutally uncomfortable. I had an inner war. I was feeling so guilty because I was so conditioned and so programmed in the role that I was assigned as a child to keep the system intact, not to hurt anybody's feelings, make them feel better. I don't want to get anybody angry. That's not my intention. I just want to have peace. I just want to live a full life. It was very painful. But over time, that guilt started turning into peace. And yeah, I want to say something here because this part matters. When you start releasing what was never yours, those feelings don't just disappear overnight. Sometimes the guilt comes back. Sometimes the sadness comes back. Sometimes you grieve. And that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means your system is adjusting. So in those moments, this is where self-care becomes non-negotiable. You start to surround yourself with people, right? Sometimes it's just slowing down. But healing isn't just mental. Your body has been carrying this too. Your body feels it. So instead of judging yourself, take care of yourself the way no one taught you how to. Slow down. Breathe, give your body what it needs because you're not going backwards. You're finally processing and what you were never allowed to feel. And number three, choose you. The third part is about choosing yourself, not once, but over and over and over again. Choosing your peace when chaos feels familiar. Choosing your voice even when it's not received. Choosing your boundaries even when they're misunderstood. Choosing yourself doesn't always feel empowering at first. It can feel like grief because you're letting go of who you had to be to survive. But on the other side of that is something so much better. There's clarity, there's peace, there's freedom. The moment that I truly chose myself, everything started to change. I'm talking about like quantum leap change. And it's not because my family changed, because again, we're not babysitting grown adults here. It was because I did. And this is the same process I now I guide women through. I know how hard this is to do alone, especially when you're a loving human being who just you just want family. Now, maybe you didn't experience it exactly the way I did. How many of you have ever felt that you're carrying more than your share? Like you're the one holding everything together, the one thinking about everyone else, the one trying to keep the peace even when it costs you your own. It's like you feel responsible for how everyone else feels, for how everything turns out, even when no one ever actually says it out loud. And somewhere along the way, you start believing that's just who you are. No one should have to shrink themselves just to keep peace in a broken system. No one should carry the emotional weight of an entire family that wants to keep the status quo. And no one should be punished for growing. When I started elevating, when I started changing, when I started choosing myself, my family of origin didn't celebrate it. They pushed back. They actually even tried harder to pull me back into the role that I had outgrown. And if that's been your experience, I want you to really hear me. You were never too much. You were never too much. You were surrounded by people who needed you to be less. And it's time to change that. My life looks different today. Not everything's not perfect. Of course, I'm a human being, but it's just because I see things differently now. I still love my family. I'm always going to love them. But I have a beautiful chosen family. I no longer wait for a phone call, hoping for an apology that may never come. I no longer sit there rehearsing conversations in my head, trying to find the perfect words to make someone understand me. And for a long time, that's how I lived, trying to be understood instead of choosing myself. Today, I have peace, I have clarity, I have boundaries, but more than anything, I have freedom. And that freedom didn't come from them finally seeing me. It came from me finally seeing myself. What we've learned as a child, it can be unlearned. What was carried can be released. And the moment you see that clearly, you stop questioning yourself. You stop shrinking. You stop trying to earn what should have been freely given.